Experience action. Let's stop just talking about customer experience, employee experience, and the experience of leaders. Let's turn ideas into action. Your host, Jeannie Walters, is an award-winning customer experience expert, international keynote speaker, and founder of Experience Investigators, a strategic consulting firm helping companies increase sales and customer retention through elevated customer experiences. Ready, set, action.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, everyone. We have another great, fantastic question this week that I hope you'll all learn from. I'm always so happy to have you here because, as you know, you're helping me live my mission to create fewer ruined days for customers. So let's dive in.
Hi, Jeannie. I'm enjoying your podcast and learning a lot. My question is around monitoring the impact of changes. Many times we will get feedback from our customers about a pain point. We'll map their journey, identify opportunities for improvement, and even implement changes. But then what? Can you share your thoughts on the best way to monitor the effectiveness of our changes, and more importantly, if they are working as intended? Thanks so much.
What a great question. And there are a couple things I really like about it. First of all, when we are focused on customer experience, a lot of times we're tasked with gathering the feedback, creating the project plans, getting those changes done somehow, some way. We don't always have the same authority or accountability. We have to do this through influence. And once we make those changes, we want to make sure they're working for our customers, right? I mean, that's what this is all about. So this is such a great question about how do we know if these changes are effective and if our customers like them, and how do we really measure that? It's such a critical point that you've raised. So thank you so much for asking this question. Monitoring the impact of changes is often where organizations fall short. And yet it's such a vital part of the whole idea of customer experience. So I have a couple of recommendations for you. One is to develop key performance indicators, or KPIs, specific to the changes implemented. So we want to make sure we're going to be measuring the success or maybe lack of success of a particular activity or process. So let's just take an example here of maybe a website implemented changes to the checkout process because they wanted to address some customer complaints about the complexity of it. So a relative KPI could be the checkout abandonment rate. If you make a change around something like that, and it's because you've noticed that customers are leaving right at that moment, then that's an operational metric that you can really look at and decide, is this working for what we want it to do? And this again ties back to how we write our goals, how we actually document what are the outcomes that we're looking for. So if we see that abandonment rate is going down after we make these changes, we can see that that's a success. That's actually achieving what we wanted it to achieve.
Yay!
So the second idea here that I want you to consider is to actively seek customer feedback after you implement these changes. So you can do this in a variety of ways, both kind of that passive after the fact with surveys. You could even do this with interviews if you're in person, or there are real-time ways to really capture immediate transactional feedback with some of the platforms that are out there. So if you notice that somebody is spending a lot of time on something and it's after a change, you might even have a pop-up chat there that says, hey, is this working for you? You might have a transactional point of feedback where you ask specifically, was this easier for you or not? Or you might not say easier because if they're a first-time visitor to the site or something. So digitally, there are plenty of options. If you're talking about in-person or retail or something like that, there is nothing wrong with good old observation. I really like to sometimes just be in the space with customers and observe their behavior. And if you've made a change because you observed behavior that wasn't working, or they looked frustrated, or maybe they told you after the fact that they were frustrated, there are lots of in the moment ways that you can capture this type of qualitative feedback as well. So I would encourage you to really look at where do we make that change and how can we get that customer feedback post-implementation. If you have a new mobile app or something because you wanted to address feedback about the old one being hard to navigate, after you launch the new one, you could send a survey to ask about their experience. Use the same questions, and then you have apples to apples, and you can really look at how are people feeling about this app versus the other one. So a potential challenge here is really making sure that you're getting that representative sample of your customers and interpreting that feedback correctly. You know, one thing we run into as customer experience professionals is, I hate to say this, but people who leave feedback often represent the extreme opinions. So that's another thing that we have to consider. So just make sure that you understand what the data is that you're looking at and that you don't take something, especially small sample size, and decide that it's the catastrophe, because that could be just the early adopters who are trying to give you that kind of extreme feedback. So make sure you involve your data scientists if you have them, but also just, common sense and observation can go a long way here. So look at how people are behaving and look at if they're really behaving in the way that you expected after you made those changes. And then finally, there are some more kind of scientific ways to look at this. There's always A/B testing. That can be a very powerful tool. So you would present one group of customers with the old way and another group with the new way and compare the results. So if you have an online news platform, you revamp how an article looks, you look at, are they increasing their time on the site? Are they actually finishing the article? Are they visiting different pages rather than just the homepage? There are all sorts of ways to look at this, but whatever your goals are, kind of start there. And A/B testing can be a powerful way to do that as well. Now, again, that's kind of digital forward. You can still do this in other ways, sometimes with a pilot. So if you're thinking about changing the format of your stores, any retailer out there who has many stores, they're not going to do that all at once to all of their stores. They're going to test it. They're going to change the format, the layout of a store, and see how customers do with it. Are they navigating? Are they happy? Maybe do on-site interviewing with them. So all sorts of ways, but really tap into that feedback just as you would with anything else. And then the last thing I want to mention here is that it's not just about making these changes and seeing the effectiveness. We also want to close the loop with the customers who gave us these ideas, who offered that feedback. It instills a sense of ownership and it shows how much you value that feedback. So, of course, there are a couple of ways to do this. Some are easier than others, but if you can make that a personalized communication, that can go so far. And now with automated email options and AI and all these incredible tools we have, we could do that at scale more than we ever have in the past. So instead of just saying, hey, everybody, we heard from some of you that you wanted this feature and we implemented it and wanted you to know, you can actually narrow that down to the people who offered that suggestion, send a personalized email and say, hey, dear Laura, we actually just implemented the change that you suggested. We thought you would be one of the first people who wanted to see it. Let us know what you think. People really, really appreciate that because it helps them feel heard. This can also be done through any way that you can imagine. So sometimes customer success teams or account executives who have relationships in B2B organizations, they will actually call customers directly and say, hey, that feature that you wanted is here. Really excited about it. Check it out. You can do this with public recognition, public acknowledgement through, things like social media and saying, hey, we heard from you. This is what we're doing. If you have a newsletter or even in-store signage, you can thank customers for their feedback and say, hey, we heard you and look at this. And then some organizations even have the opportunity to have user communities, customer advisory boards, test groups, things like that. Those groups will help you with beta testing and just trying things out. So remember, closing the loop should not just be about informing the customer that their suggestion has been implemented. You want to look at this as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to re-engage with them, solicit further feedback, and really deepen your relationship. If you want to cultivate those relationships, hearing them, listening to them, implementing these changes, and then circling back with them is really a great way to nurture that so that you improve loyalty through these acts of engagement. So I love this question. What a fantastic question. And congratulations for actually making these changes. You clearly are moving your feedback into insights, into action, which is what we're all looking for. So congratulations on that too. And then finally, I just want to remind everybody, we are off and ready for takeoff with CXI Flight School. We're very excited about this. If you haven't heard about it, please check it out. You can find it at experienceinvestigators.com/CXI Flight School. The I, of course, is for investigation. But, we like to say it's also for inspiration and innovation and imagination and all sorts of things. So join us there. We're accepting applications right now. We hope to hear from you. If you have any questions, of course, check out all of our resources at experienceinvestigators.com. And hey, I can't wait for your next question. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll see you here next time. To learn more about our strategic approach to experience, check out free resources at experienceinvestigators.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter, our Year of CX program, and more. And please follow me, Jeannie Walters, on LinkedIn.